Anna Baltzer is the national organizer for the U.S. campaign to end the Israeli occupation and author of Witness in Palestine, a Jewish American woman in the occupied territories. Anna, thank you for being here. And so, no question, what happened today was horrific, and those pictures are terrible. But you heard the defense that Hamas places children regularly in harm's way.
There is no excuse, Megan, for bombing safe houses, schools full of men, women, and children. These are people like you and me. 800 Palestinians, roughly 800 Palestinians killed with U.S. weapons. We are implicated in this. There is no excuse.
What do you make of the fact that, Hamas, it's clear that they use civilians as human shields, that they do try to disguise weapons as babies, that unlike Israel that tries to give notice before it bombs, anything, including a civilian potential area, Hamas actually takes civilians, tells them to stay when the bombs are coming?
Megan, there's actually no evidence that Hamas has used Palestinian human shields as defined by international law. But if you would like to talk about human shields, Israel routinely uses Palestinian human shields. I've witnessed it with my own 2 eyes. Israel has used Palestinian human shields, has defended its so-called right to use Palestinian human shields, as documented by Israeli journalists, human rights organizations, and Israeli soldiers themselves.
Israel, do you deny that Israel gives notice before it bombs these facilities?
If Hamas were to drop leaflets over Tel Aviv saying that unless people evacuated their houses quickly, they would be bombed to smithereens, would we congratulate Hamas on their humanitarianism? It doesn't change anything that Hamas...
How is Israel supposed to fight back against an organization whose entire mission is the destruction of Israel? It's in the Hamas charter that they want to kill all Jews.
Hamas is a red herring. The policies that Israel is carrying out against the Palestinian people have been going on for decades.
They elected Hamas to run Gaza.
Yes, but the policies that Israel is enacting are part of a pattern that goes back decades before Hamas was even in existence. And if anyone who is very serious about seeing a lasting peace in the area has to address those root causes of the violence. And that has to do with the suffocating blockade that Palestinians have been living under, the brutal occupation that Palestinians have lived under for more than 40 years, and the ongoing displacement and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians for more than 60 years. Anyone who really wants to see peace has to address these underlying issues.
Anna, thank you. I want to tell the viewers that...
means to be Jewish. So somebody who's Jewish, somebody either of the Jewish religion, obviously, or the Jewish lineage. My mom's Jewish, her mom's Jewish. This, I know, many people know this, but it's good to lay it out there. To be Jewish, then, is different from what it means to be Israeli. An Israeli is a citizen of the state of Israel. It's a citizenship. And that, to be Israeli, is different from what it means to be a Zionist. And Zionism is a political ideology that supports the Jewish state in historic Palestine, often no matter what the cost to the indigenous population. Anyway, these are 3 separate categories: Jewish, Israeli, Zionist, and sometimes they overlap in the same person, but they are not the same thing. There are Jews who aren't Israeli, like myself. There are Israelis who aren't Jewish. About 20% of the people who have Israeli citizenship are Palestinian. There are Jews who are anti-Zionist, who say this land should be this land should be for anybody who's been living there for generations, regardless of what their religion or their ethnicity is. And then there are Zionists who aren't Jewish, the increasingly influential Christian Zionist movement, largely based in this country, that talks about fueling this conflict to bring about the Armageddon, to speed the return of the Messiah, not at all pro-Jewish. What happens to Jews in the Armageddon? It's not about preserving Judaism, it is Zionism. So we see these distinctions, and they're so crucial, first of all, because we don't want to in any way associate the things that Israel is doing and the things that Hisham outlined and Naim outlined, and I'll be talking about as well. We must not associate these things with Judaism. Occupation, oppression, discrimination, these things have nothing to do with Judaism. And likewise, and this is the important part, to speak out against them, to speak out against the violation of people's rights, to speak out against apartheid, to speak out against ethnic cleansing, is not anti-Semitic. It's in line with a tradition of social justice that has been the pride of many Jewish people and many other people. It's been the pride of not just Jewish people, of course. We don't have a monopoly on social justice, but for so many people for so long. And frankly, when we hear people use this kind of bullying and name-calling to say that to criticize oppression is to criticize Judaism, what does that really mean? Is that not in itself an anti-Semitic claim? We need to turn that around on them and really break that down. And I'm especially excited, actually, to be presenting during Israeli Apartheid Week to talk about also some of those parallels with apartheid in South Africa, not only in terms of what's happening on the ground today, but also in ways of how we're going to help support Palestinians and stop it. I know that it's very easy for me to say that. I know that it's easy for me to say it in the same way that it's easy for me to talk about Palestine in a way that Palestinians cannot talk about it. But what I can offer you is the hope that I have gained through Palestinians and Israelis working together, which I'll talk about, and the support that I offer you humbly, along with hundreds and thousands of other allies that are spread across this nation, including right here with us tonight. People, when talking about ways of overcoming these kinds of injustices and struggles, people ask themselves, well, why can't, and you should laugh because it's ridiculous, but why can't Muslims respond nonviolently? People say these kinds of things all the time. Why can't Palestinians respond nonviolently? Where is the nonviolent resistance of Martin Luther King? Where is the nonviolent resistance of Gandhi? And the answer is, it's everywhere. It's here tonight with you, and it's here, and it's everywhere in Palestine, everywhere that you look, just to talk specifically about what Palestinians are doing up against the same kinds of struggles that you experience here, albeit with some differences. You have an incredible civil rights movement building in Palestine today, with Palestinians leading it, but along with them, allies from across Israel and Jews across around the country, around the world. You have people who gather every Friday after prayers to march down to the wall that is threatening their land, denying them the rights to go to their land and see their families, singing freedom songs, holding posters and banners and having sit-ins, things that you saw in the civil rights movement. You even see soldiers hosing those demonstrators, just like you saw in the civil rights movement here in this country. This is the incredible courage and strength and resilience, what is called the sumud, the steadfastness of Palestinians who continue their struggle in spite of all odds in Palestine. You have Palestinian Muslims and Christians marching arm in arm in Bethlehem, marching to the checkpoint to ask why can't we go to Jerusalem too? You have the Palestinians who refuse to hold on to their passes, to agree to a system of identity cards that determine whether they are human beings, whether they have rights or not. And this is exactly what you saw Black South African activists doing during the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. An incredible way of civil disobedience in a non-violent way, struggling for, of course, equal rights. And in spite of the incredible obstacles, for me, the most pervasive kind of nonviolent resistance in Palestine and here today is just holding one's head up high, refusing to give up your national and ethnic identity, refusing to lose faith.